Tensions are rising in one of the most hotly contested regions on the planet, the South China Sea.
This is South China Sea, where there's a lot of tension brewing right now. Why? Because China is trying to control this entire area, which covers 3.5 million square kilometers and extends from Singapore to the Taiwan Strait. Countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, Philippines, South Korea, and Japan are deeply concerned about China's claims over this area. Why the worry? Well, because a whopping 80% of all Pacific Ocean sea traffic flows through the South China Sea, and China's busy setting up military bases left and right on these islands, sending shivers down other countries' spines. But the US isn't staying quiet either. They've surrounded China with their own military bases, adding even more tension to the sea. Now, many experts worry that the South China Sea could become the spark that ignites World War III. In today's video, we'll understand why the South China Sea is so important to the world and try to understand China's perspective. Why does it want to control these waters so desperately? And finally, we'll discuss what might happen next. So, let's dive in.
Tuesday incident was the latest in a series of maritime run-ins between the Philippines and China.
"30% of the entire world's trade flows through the South China Sea. Every year, a staggering 11 billion barrels of oil and 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas traverse these waters, bound for the eager hands of Southeast Asian nations. That's a lot, right? It's like a huge highway for ships, connecting the Pacific Ocean to the Indian Ocean. Now here's the thing. Whoever controls this sea controls a big chunk of the world's trade. Now let me break it down for you. 5 countries, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, the Philippines, and Indonesia, are fighting over different areas of the South China Sea, each staking its territorial flags in accordance with the United Nations Law of the Sea. Well, according to this law, any area extending 200 nautical miles from a country's coastline forms an exclusive economic zone, EEZ, or a short farm area. This means that the country holds rights over the natural resources within and the trade passing through. For example, if oil is discovered within 200 miles of Vietnam's coast, Vietnam has the right to control it. Similarly, any part of the sea that doesn't fall within any country's 200-mile limit is considered international waters, meaning it's free for anyone to use. This brings us to the heart of the matter. Every country in this region is vying for control over its own slice of the maritime pie, except for China. According to China, the whole South China Sea is its historical claim. When Japan lost in World War II, China took advantage of the situation. They drew the 9-dash line and declared almost 90% of the South China Sea as their own. Before this, these areas were under Japan's control. Even when the UN built an exclusive economic zone of 200 miles in 1973, China refused to accept it, insisting that the entire South China Sea is rightfully theirs. In the center of the South China Sea, there are Spratly Islands. There are a bunch of deserted islands where no one lives, but countries like China, Vietnam, the Philippines, and Malaysia all claim them. Why? Because whoever claims these islands automatically expands their exclusive economic zone. China especially is serious about these islands. It's building military bases there. Here, America enters. You see, even though America doesn't have any claims or interests in the South China Sea directly, but it's a world superpower, and China is a threat to that power. So, to stop China from expanding, the USA is building its own military bases around China. It's like a big chess game in the ocean. This belt starts from the city of Okinawa in Japan, where the United States has 32 military facilities. Then, there are American bases on Miyako and Yonaguni Islands in Japan too. In total, there are around 30,000 American soldiers in Japan. Next point is Taiwan, where there are about 200 American soldiers today. About 66 years ago, in 1958, there were 20,000 American soldiers in Taiwan. Back then, America even had nuclear weapons installed here, but they removed them in 1970. They brought back the soldiers because China, which is only 100 miles away from Taiwan, wasn't happy about America being so close, and there was danger of direct confrontation. After Taiwan, the next point is the Philippines, particularly Palawan Island. where there is an American air base with around 2,000 American soldiers. Similarly, in the Philippines, there is Clark Air Base on Luzon Island, where nearly 1,000 American soldiers are stationed. Over here in Sulu Island in the South China Sea, the Americans have deployed nearly 500 troops and anti-aircraft systems to intercept Chinese ships. And finally, in southern Vietnam, there are about 500 American soldiers at the Da Nang Air Base. It's not just about military muscle. There's a deal between America and Vietnam, too. It says that in times of conflict, American Air Force can use Vietnam's airports. But wait, the story doesn't end here. Another major player in the strategy to choke China is Australia. There's a military agreement between the US, UK, and Australia called AUKUS. According to this agreement, these three countries are forming a joint submarine force to monitor all the Pacific Oceans. America and UK have already built a base in Perth, Australia, where they are building submarines. Looking at it from China's perspective, America's strategy is very aggressive. China's entire trade passes through the 14,000-kilometer-long eastern coastline, and this trade route is surrounded by American bases. China's trade goes through three straits. The first one is the Malacca Strait, which is between Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. The second one is the Sunda Strait, between Indonesia's Java and Sumatra Islands. And the third one is the Lombok Strait, which is between two Indonesian islands. All these straits are between countries that are friends with America, and if these routes are blocked, China could be crippled in a war within weeks. That's why, for the past few years, China has been trying very aggressively to control this sea. Now, China has the world's second largest navy after the US. In 2022, while America's military spending was $877 billion, China's military spending was $300 billion. Just a few years ago, in 1990, China's military spending was only $9 billion. China wants to protect all its trade routes through its navy and its economy, and navy are growing very fast. Looking at this graph, it is very clear that China will soon surpass America to become the world's largest economy. For the past 80 years, America has dominated the world. But as always happens in human history, empires rise and then they fall, and some other empire takes their place. It seems someone else is about to replace America now, and it looks like it's going to be China. But America will do everything to stop China from becoming the world's superpower. They might block China's trade routes or put pressure through military means. It's a race to become the most powerful, and it's getting more interesting. But this race is soon going to push our world towards a big conflict. What do you think a war between the USA and China would look like? What should be a major trigger? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for the latest geopolitical news.